issues and topics that are relevant to Bristol County and beyond. This is Elizabeth. I'm Elizabeth Nowakowski. I teach at Bristol Community College, and welcome to the program. Today, I am very pleased to introduce our guest, Bristol County District Attorney Thomas Quinn III. Welcome back to the program.
Glad to be back.
We have a lot of things that we'd like to talk about. I'm not sure if 30 minutes is going to be enough for this segment, so I'm already prefacing that we need you back in a couple of weeks or months, or whenever your time allows you. So maybe after the last show, we had quite a few questions that some of my students actually posed to me. One of the things that they wanted to find out a little more about is some of the programs related to elderly abuse, some of the, what is happening. And along with that, also some of the things that you see in terms of financial fraud, because it also relates to some of the things that are happening with elderly.
Well, I've started a financial crimes unit focusing on elder fraud, primarily because there's so much of it going on. What we've done is I've started a unit and assigned prosecutors to investigate complaints that come in. That has resulted in a number of charges being brought. So I'm very proud of that. That started, it's been going on for about 3 years. I've increased the size of the unit. But in conjunction with that is prevention. I've gone out to every council on aging in the county, at least once, some cases multiple times, and other locations that seniors are at, whether it's a nursing home or assisted living, to talk about prevention. We certainly would prefer to have a crime not occur and be prevented. What we discuss is primarily through phone calls. Several of the scams, if you will, have been identified as that come from the IRS phone calls, grandparent scam, can I fix your computer, and other attempts to essentially swindle our elder folks out of their money. So what we've done is we've tried to educate them. We have in our Community Affairs Division a person assigned to promoting elder safety. We've got literature that we put out at every event we go to. We have developed a relationship with Bristol Elder Services for reports of abuse. So it's two-pronged, and we're out throughout Bristol County spreading the word about prevention. Hang up on these phone calls. Don't engage with people you don't know, because nothing good is going to come. So that's what we've been doing. We also partnered with the Federal Trade Commission and have literature and a message out that's been going on for several years, again, promoting awareness and to be on the lookout for fraud, because it is massive and our elders deserve to be protected.
And these cases are really hard to prosecute, right? I mean, they some of it's the federal government, I assume, the federal cases, or are there state cases? Are there? I mean, what's happening in terms of finding those people who are actually going after the elderly? Well,
they're very tough to prosecute for several reasons. One, evidence. If you accept a phone call and give money, we're not going to trace that call. You call that number almost immediately afterwards, and you can't connect to it. You need to have evidence. Is the person of sound mind? Often they aren't. That's why they're taking advantage of. So we have to establish that, let's say, money was taken or property without the authority of an individual. And if that person can't respond, we don't know if it's a theft. So they also involve family members, which are difficult to prosecute because, generally speaking, someone doesn't want to go against their son or daughter or family member. Mm-hmm. So they're difficult to prosecute, but we're making the effort, and I think we're making significant inroads to investigating and charging cases, holding people accountable, whether it's paying restitution, recommending that they go to jail. And I think it's making a difference, and we're going to continue that.
Another topic that I know we didn't really talk about last time is what's happened, because it's such a vast topic, is what's happening with the drug, or it used to be called opioid crisis. Now you can say drug epidemic. I guess it all started with opioids, and now with it's heroin laced with fentanyl. what is happening? How we don't have to talk about and analyze the whole issue, but how does it impact the courts? How has the way you try cases right now changed over the last 3 years in light of how the law a little has changed when we look at the people who are coming in front of you that are addicted to to drugs or anything on that topic?
I don't think it's changed significantly. I think there is, with new legislation recently for the new crime bill, and in general, I think there's a goal to sort of divert lower level drug offenders away from the criminal justice system, which, I support, as long as a result of drug use, are not committing crimes that impact people, whether it's crimes of violence, robberies, bad assaults. So I think I think there's a move towards trying to divert those people and get treatment. The focus on the drug dealers and drug traffickers is the same. There has to be accountability for selling drugs. Each case is viewed on its own. Some cases people can be given consideration if they, may have a drug habit. But I don't think it's changed significantly. One of the things that might change a little bit is with fentanyl and this car fentanyl, which is very potent, the court has set up some guidelines as to how that drug can be brought into court when there are trials and legal proceedings relating to it because of its potency. But the actual the legislature recently has changed some of the laws with respect to mandatory sentences, not the more serious ones, but and then several years ago they reduced the school zone range from 1,000 to 300, so that's cut back on a lot of prosecutions in that area. But we still are going to prosecute drug dealers for putting the product into the stream, so to speak, of our communities, and that's wreaking a lot of havoc, especially, as you said, heroin laced with fentanyl has led to this significant increase in fatal overdoses during the last 4 years.
Yeah, and that actually leads me to another question that was asked by one of my students. What happens to the actual drug paraphernalia that is confiscated at the arrest? So obviously, if it goes to trial, becomes evidence at the trial, what happens to it later? Where does
when
it
the
go?
case is resolved, it's destroyed by the police.
Okay.
They get a destruction order from the court, and it's destroyed.
Okay, so there is, so that's the answer for those who are wondering. Thank you for that update. One of the things that you and I spoke briefly before the show is it's the summertime, right? So we have a lot of graduations, a lot of I don't want to say it's a party time, but it is we deserve the summer, and there are a lot of teenagers who will be probably getting together and unfortunately maybe doing some underage drinking. So we have a lot of issues related to this, right? You could have the underage drinking and driving is one of them, but also sort of have the social host liability law, and parents being liable for drinking that is happening at the house, even if they're not there. Can you speak a little about that, about some of those issues and the position that your office?
Sure. Well, we had a press conference several weeks ago taking note of the season with the graduations and proms, as you said, coming up, and in some instances, youngsters are drinking. As part of that event, I would discourage it because, first of all, it's illegal to be drinking when you're under 21, which they all are, and potential harm that can be caused. The tragedy of someone being killed in an accident, at the end of the school year at one of these events, will live forever with the family and friends. So I think people need to be careful and cautious, have a good time. These after prom or graduation parties, parents need to be very careful. If you host a party and you're going to provide alcohol, that's going to open you up to criminal exposure, especially if someone is hurt coming from that party. So I think people just need to act responsibly. Years ago, the drinking age was 18. It's a different world now. Have a good time, celebrate, but introducing alcohol into it is not going to be a good thing, and the consequences are potentially disastrous.
Have you had cases where the parents were charged?
We've had some social host liability. I just think parents have to realize that they're doing a disservice to the individuals there who are under 21, and also to themselves from a criminal point of view. So just got to be smart. I mean, these are big events. We want people to have a good time, but alcohol and drug use can ruin or negatively impact these events.
Yeah, and ruin their kids' lives forever.
Well, ruin the lives, and then, you know, you also have it's not, even though you can have a tragic accident, some people come in and if they're under the influence, they throw them out of the event, they don't graduate. That can put a damper on it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
For people who, you know, should be celebrating these milestones, especially the graduation, moving on to another phase of their life. So got to be smart and careful, and not get involved in something that's going to cause potentially a lot of anguish for people.
Yeah. So everybody beware and be careful and be smart. One of the topics that's, I don't want to say controversial, it's the issue of bail. And the bail is, I always say there are three parties, right? There is the prosecutor, there is the defense attorney, and at the end of the day, it's the judge who makes the ultimate decision. There are sometimes cases that come up in the news, especially with the social media. Often the public is not aware what the rules are and how it works. Do you want to speak? I know that is an issue close to your heart. Can you talk about the bail generally? What would you like the public to know about bail?
Well, I think bail, most people charged with crimes are released with no bail, meaning they're released without any bail put on them. There's a presumption that of personal recognizance, which means you're free to go without any financial bail. There are people charged with more serious crimes, or people who have committed a crime and are out on bail are really the focus of my attention. I felt strongly about this for 30 years. Sort of in summary, people who are dangers to the community or present a flight risk or who have a history of not coming to court should not get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to bail. Under the law, we can move to hold somebody as a danger to the community, which we often do in domestic violence cases, other crimes of violence, or repeat drug offenses. I think there are times, frankly, when judges release people that should not be released. It has to be viewed on a case-by-case basis. You have to know all the facts. Setting amount of cash bail can be arbitrary at times. You know, what should it be? Should it be $5,000? Should it be $10,000? Should it be $20,000? But releasing people who are out on bail, who have committed legitimate crimes, or who are a flight risk, I think, frankly, in some cases, the courts release people that should be released, and I've always felt strongly about that. I know basically who should be released and who shouldn't, based on my experience. It's not a perfect formula, but again, if you've committed a crime and been released, now you're back again, you get less consideration. If you committed very serious crimes, if you have a history of committing crimes, you could be viewed as a danger to the community and held without bail. Fortunately, in the legislature, in the Superior Court, where the more serious crimes are charged, there is a 120-day limit for if someone is found to be a danger to the public. I was able to successfully get that increase several months to 180 days. Now, it's not a lot, but it's something, because especially when criminals are held as dangers to the community, they should not be released until the case is resolved unless there's some significant change. So what the public should know is that the vast majority of people are released appropriately. There are cases when judges release people that shouldn't. We've had problems with some judges doing that, and in an appropriate way, I would comment on that, because I don't think it's fair to the public, and people lose confidence in the criminal justice system when individuals are released on bail. That should not be, especially those with a history. Again, I would say you have to look at the facts of each case. You can't generalize because that is not giving a fair assessment of it. But I've always felt strongly of it. In particular, people committing crimes while out on bail, those people should be held to the pendency of their cases. And I'm not talking about minor matters. I'm talking about cases in which the average person would say, yes, that person should be held in custody.
Because only because there was a, let's say, DUI or vehicle homicide, that doesn't by itself mean anything, right? You need more facts, whether it's a repeat offender or whether
well, that's correct. Well, the charge itself, the charge that the person's being arrested for is significant. I mean, but we need to know what is their record. Yeah. Were they on probation? Were they out on release on other cases? See, that's when the benefit of the doubt should go to the Commonwealth. The defendant, I mean, you don't want to see people held in custody who shouldn't be. I frankly don't think there's a lot of that. A new court case came down at the end of August last year, which in a nutshell said that the cash bail amount that is often put by the court should not be punitive, and they should basically assess people's ability to pay. But there's been different views of that. Clearly, if someone has a record and is a flight risk, higher bail is warranted. My personal feeling is if a person is a danger to the community, we're filing to hold them as such and are not going to get involved in whether they can make $50,000 or $20,000 cash bail. Drug dealers, unfortunately, in cases that I think they should be held because they're dangers to the community, are released because they have the means to post a cash bail. Yeah. So in some of those cases, I think they should be detained without bail. Yeah.
And to what extent is overcrowding of jails, does it come into consideration at all?
Shouldn't.
No. But do you think it does? Do you think there is an issue at all? Are the jails overcrowded currently?
From the state, the number of inmates in the state prison population the last 5 years has gone down dramatically. Locally, it's tough to assess because they come and go. Yeah. That's where a lot of the inmates are. I mean, every day people are presenting to court. You need to judge the case on its merits. If a person shouldn't be held, they should be released. If they should be, they should be held. I mean, I wouldn't be concerned about the prison population myself. And it's not my understanding that's an issue that the court should consider.
Yeah. Thank you. Another issue that I wanted to talk about, not even an issue, a topic that I wanted to talk about is technology. At the high level where we are today versus even, 10 years, 5 years ago, technology has just changed, is changing our lives every day. Now we have Alexas, right? And there is there are issues, legal issues related to that, what the court can do or what can be admissible with those speakers, but not even going that far with the internet, with the mobile phones. What, how has it changed the way the court or your office is operating? Because there was something in the news the other day about the iPhones, right? And the whole inability of the police and prosecutors access iPhones, and it is still going on. But can you maybe speak about that or anything else regarding technology and how it's changed the way that cases are handled?
It's had a significant impact on the prosecution of cases, say, the last decade. I would start with the phones. A lot of evidence is obtained through phones. Investigating people, if you get the phone number of a suspect, you can trace and see who they talk to and interview people. The texting, again, provides a lot of evidence in cases. People can make statements admitting to a crime, connecting themselves to a crime. Video surveillance has gone on has increased significantly, which I think is very important because a number of crimes now are being caught on tape. Either seeing the individual approach, seeing the actual crime happen. You're seeing that more and more on the news. Even last night, I don't think I watched, they showed somebody intervening in a robbery because it was on video surveillance. And what's critical about that is when you see it on tape, it's there. The individual now can't credibly say, I wasn't there, or they could question the witness and say, well, what was he wearing and where was he? It's on tape, and the jury can see it. We've had several murder cases over the last several years where video surveillance has been significant in obtaining convictions. Computer evidence seized relating to child pornography and in the investigation of other crimes can be important. So there's been a significant impact of technology in investigating and solving crimes. When I first started, there was not DNA evidence. You had blood evidence, blood type. Was it consistent with this blood type? Now we've come to the point where there's DNA evidence, and then there's even an offshoot of that can analyze smaller samples. So significant and critical to solving cases.
And would you say that we are moving quickly enough as a legal system, from the judicial point of view, with the technology? Are the courts or the judges embracing it, and how?
Are they embracing it? Well, they have to take a fair look at it and see if it's consistent with the Constitution in this state and the U.S. Constitution. I mean, there was the issue of cell phones and cell towers that seemed to be litigated out in the courts, and decisions have been made. And I think
there's one at the U.S. Supreme Court. I think it's about to be coming down any moment. The one about the cell towers and
and then getting access to cell phones where they want to protect privacy. The Apple and these companies, but you got serious stakes involved in some of these cases. So it will continue to evolve. But as I mentioned, those different areas, it's critical in solving crimes in the modern era.
And one of the questions that actually I think it may relate to what we just talked about is someone asked me whether, and I think I shared the question with you, if the budget was no issue, what innovative maybe technologies or what would you love to bring to your office if you didn't have any budget constraints? What have you seen some of your colleagues across the country have that we don't have?
Well. I think we're in pretty good shape. I think that the technology to having the most up-to-date advanced technology to investigate crimes would probably be, the goal. But I think we're in pretty good shape. We try to take funds and allot them that are seized, in particular from illegal drug activity, and purchase up-to-date equipment for analyzing evidence. We have a state police detective unit of over 20 detectives that investigates homicides and other crimes. So I think it's having the most updated investigative technology, and also it would be staff, having more staff, because there's a lot of activity in this county. It's very time-consuming. We have a murder case starting today. It's going to be several weeks, 2 defendants, all kinds of evidence of videotapes and cell phones. So these things, and all the other crimes and investigations that are going on a daily basis. Something happens, but they keep happening. So I think it's having the ability to respond with technology to the crimes that are committed. But we're in pretty good shape overall.
I'm going to ask the same question maybe twice in a different way. One would be, how many cases an average prosecutor in your case handles?
Well, it depends at what level you're talking about. The district court, we have 4 district courts in New Bedford, Fall River, Taunton, and Attleboro. They handle hundreds of cases, but because of the volume. There's thousands of cases, 25,000 plus in the district court each year. Superior Court, where the more serious cases go, but there's less of them. We have around 500 pending now, give or take. I would say the average caseload is about 25 to 30 cases, could be 35. We have a child abuse unit, could be a little less because of the time involved in those cases. So, but there's never enough time to handle all these cases.
And that's why most of them do settle, right? Most of your cases don't go to trial. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes. In the criminal justice system, most cases are resolved by a plea agreement. Either the prosecutor, our office, agrees with the defense to a sentence, or the parties make a presentation to the court, and the court imposes a sentence. I mean, the system would break down if we did not have that. I mean, it just doesn't have the resources now, frankly, to handle all of these cases in the way that I'd like to see them handled. But I think that, you know, it's just part of the system. You try to make a fair recommendation on the sentence, focusing on the repeat offenders and the violent criminals who have a history of committing crimes. So that sort of sums it up. But it varies as to what, you know, if you're prosecuting homicide, you have less of the, because there's more
obviously.
work involved. But I would say 25 to 32 in that range in Superior Court.
And in terms of big cases, so let's say you mentioned the case that is going to trial today, the murder case. How many? Because your office is not just prosecutors. You have support staff, you have investigators, etc. How many people do you think are involved in a, let's say, murder case? If you were to look at that team, you know, and just say this is how many people touch that case from your office. What do you think the bulk number would be on a big case like that?
Well, you've got state police and the local police department that investigates it. So in this case, it's New Bedford and state police. I don't know, I'd say could be 10 or 15 of those people having a part of it.
Yeah.
Prosecutors, prosecutor left the office, at least I'd say 4 or 5. Now, there's not 4 or 5 on the case right now, but there's 2. Support staff, advocate work could be 3 or 4. So, I mean, if you include everybody, I mean, it could be, you know, 20 to 30 people. Plus, outside of our office, there's chemists, there's the state police ballistics unit, who's going to analyze the evidence with respect to firearms in a case. So, many hands are involved in it.
Yeah. It's not just one. No, I don't mean to belittle it. It's the prosecutors. It's sort of the trial is the final, the final piece of it.
It's the final piece, but a lot of work goes into it, especially when a case like this. There's 2 defendants being tried together. Significant amount of technological evidence, videotape, cell phone. So a lot of work involved.
A lot of testimonies. I just want you to mention the event that you are doing for the elderly. We started with the topic, and I just wanted to leave with, if you could just mention what is it and when is it and who is the audience?
June 15th this year at Whites of Westport, we're celebrating our seniors. This is our 4th annual event, and we've got a significant involvement where significant participation from sponsors and vendors, number of speakers coming to discuss issues relating to the elderly, theft, fraud, prevention. So it's a great day for hopefully elders to come and any people involved in their care. It's free of charge, and it's just an issue that's not going to go away. People are living longer, which is great, but they're more susceptible to being preyed upon by the many thieves that are out there.
And I will make sure to help spread the word about this great event.
Appreciate that.
Thank you so much again for visiting us. I hope you can come and be with us here again in a couple of weeks or months. Thank you everyone for watching. And once again, if you have any topics you'd like me to discuss, just send me an email. That is, you should be able to see it on the screen. Thank you so much.